The Citroen Ami really is the car you all love to hate, isn't it? Just over 2 weeks ago, I brought you an exclusive first drive of a UK spec Citroen Ami, thanks to Citroen UK inviting me to their headquarters to have a go in one of their new press demonstrators. Since then, more than 27,000 of you have watched that, and it's safe to say I don't think I've ever known a car to divide opinion quite so much. I think it's quite clear that it either appeals to you or it doesn't, but let's take a look at some of the points that attracted the most attention. First up, it's left-hand drive. How can it be UK spec if it's left-hand drive? I mean, there was even one nutter saying I was lying about it being a UK spec car because it's left-hand drive, and this was over and over and over again. This was by far the most commented criticism. I thought it was common knowledge by now, but I suppose some people might have been seeing Ami for the first time when they watched this video and might not have been aware. To be clear, yes, it is left-hand drive. There is no right-hand drive conversion, and the cars that will be supplied to UK customers by Citroen UK will be left-hand drive. I appreciate that this isn't ideal. It would almost certainly be better if it was right-hand drive, but it would also be more expensive. Enough people moan about the pricing as it is, saying, oh, that's far too expensive, so imagine what a right-hand drive conversion would do to the pricing. And let's also think about reasons why it being left-hand drive would be a bad thing. Visibility, particularly for overtaking, but also in general. Well, it's 1.39 metres wide and it's full of glass, so you can see very well indeed, and it's so narrow you can position yourself to the right if you need to see around stuff without straying too far onto the wrong side of the road. And let's not forget, it is limited to 28 miles per hour. So you're not going to be overtaken much, are you? Haven't actually driven one, unlike the vast majority of people who think left-hand drive is world-ending. My experience is that, yeah, it's a little bit weird sitting on the wrong side of the car for the first couple of minutes, and then it's absolutely fine. One person reckoned that you'll suddenly forget what side of the road you should be driving on. Well, I'm not sure some of these people should be allowed on the public roads, to be honest with you, in any vehicle, never mind in an Ami. Next up, yes, it's limited to 28 miles per hour, but wow, I cannot believe the number of people that seem to think that this is incredibly dangerous. I understand that you might regularly need to use faster roads for whatever reason you need to use a car, so it might not be suitable for you, but incredibly dangerous? I mean, should you drive one down the M1? No, obviously not. In fact, I'm pretty certain it would be illegal to do so, and rightly so. But there's a bit of a split responsibility here, isn't there? Ami drivers need to be aware that the vehicle has limitations, and that's made very clear to you. Nobody's going to buy one not knowing that it's limited to 28 miles an hour. And you should be thinking a bit about what routes you're going to take to minimise the use of roads with higher speed limits, especially busy roads with higher speed limits. But I mean, other drivers have got a little bit of a role to play here as well, haven't they? Claiming that a slow-moving vehicle is incredibly dangerous because other drivers might need to slow down around it sets a rather worrying precedent. After all, you should be paying attention to your surroundings, and certainly couldn't blame other slow-moving traffic like cyclists, mopeds, tractors for your inattention should you manage to cause an accident. I think I'm more worried about sharing the road with people who think they'd be unable to avoid a collision with a slow-moving vehicle. No matter what I'm driving, then I would be driving the Ami on roads with higher speed limits. I mean, it's absolutely bonkers. I'm equally confused by those who think 28 miles per hour isn't fast enough in a 20 mile an hour or 30 mile an hour zone. Driving it in the built-up areas around Coventry like I did, I found myself regularly catching up with traffic. An extra 2 miles per hour isn't going to make any real difference. And if that's what's putting you off, I would definitely say take one for a test drive before you rule it out. Because if you're going to regularly use it in 20 or 30 zones, it's not going to be a problem for you. There's many reasons why it is not the ideal car for everyone. But 2 miles an hour under the speed limit, it definitely isn't one of those reasons. There's quite a bit of, oh, it doesn't have aircon, it doesn't have this, it doesn't have that, I want this feature, I want that. Well, people are moaning about the £7,695 price tag being too expensive. How much more do you think it's going to add if you put a lot of extras in there? I think you also completely missed the point. It's meant to be cheap, basic transport. If you want comfort, if you want refinement, I think you want something that isn't a glorified moped with a roof. And I think you need to readjust your expectations, to be quite frank with you. And it might well be that it's not any use for you and you need to buy a standard car. But sort of throwing hate at the Ami because it doesn't have all these features, I think is absolutely bizarre. I mean, how much do you want this thing to end up costing? I think it's already quite expensive for what it is, as do a lot of you. But the more you add in, the more it's going to cost. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. Lots of comments on the charging, of course, and I do agree with you. It would be better if it was fitted with a 3-pin plug. But what you need to remember is what Citroen have done here is make sure it complies with UK regulations. It needs to have Type 2 charging, and so it does. I'm sure that a lot of people will go out and they will buy an EU to UK adapter, and as long as you buy one that's decent quality, they will probably have a reasonable experience with that. But what you're not going to get is an official sanction that, yeah, you should definitely go and do that, because that's a whole new can of worms in terms of liability. So Citroen will tell you you need to charge it with Type 2, but what you do with that, well, that's up to you. I'm pretty sure that companies that sell decent quality EU to UK adapters are going to be swamped with inquiries. And that's all I'm going to say on the matter. I don't think it's a deal breaker. I mean, a lot of people now do have a Type 2 wall box at home. And let's be honest, with the way things are going with the transition to electric vehicles, you're going to need one eventually anyway. So maybe it's not a bad time to sort one out if you can. Let's also talk about the price, because a lot of people have commented on that. All of the early reviews mentioned it would be around £6,000, and it isn't. But what people are missing here, though, is that when the early reviews broke, there were absolutely no plans to bring Ami to the UK. People were taking that French initial price of €6,900 and making an assumption about a product that was never going to be sold in the UK, and so was presumably of little consequence in terms of accuracy. If you want to order one in France today, it will cost you €7,790. There's a €900 government grant available, but I don't think it's fair to compare government subsidies between countries. That's a whole new topic of discussion, and I'm sure there'll be some strong opinions on that. So that's £6,700 if you do a straight conversion, making the UK model just under £1,000 more expensive. Knock off £200 for the Type 2 adapter and it's £800 difference. Rip off Britain, I hear you cry, but I mean, this isn't limited to Citroen or the Ami, is it? Vehicles are more expensive here in the UK than they are in France, no matter what you're buying. A Tesla Model Y standard range rear-wheel drive is €49,990, just under £43,000. Buy one in the UK and that will cost you £51,990. I don't hear people en masse claiming that Tesla are ripping us off because they're selling cars in France cheaper than they are here. And I'm sure there'll be examples like this for every manufacturer with every car they sell. Tesla will sell every Model Y they bring over here without a shadow of a doubt, and you won't have people screaming, "Oh, it's rip off Britain." A couple of comments really dumbfounded me. They suggested that my review showed any kind of buyer's remorse or regret. I'm not quite sure what video you watched, but it turns. I mean, it's brilliant. It is just. But if that was your takeaway, I can only assume that you are desperate to seek negativity in any given situation. It's quite sad, really, if you think about it. I absolutely can't wait for my Ami to be delivered. And if there was any remorse in the slightest, I could just cancel my order. Which I'm definitely not going to, because it's going to be great and I cannot wait. It's not all doom and gloom though. A lot of you seem to get it. I'm not expecting everybody to love it. It's obviously a vehicle that has a very specific use, it has limitations, and it can't replace everything for everyone. But for those that can make use of it, and for those whose needs it will meet, and there is a lot of people, it's an absolute game changer. Even if it's not for you, that's absolutely fine. But I don't understand why it is so Marmite that it results in these massive outpourings of hate. More so than usual. I mean, making videos about electric vehicles, I see a lot of people that hate on everything because it's different, because it's new, because it's changed. But Ami seems worse than anything else. It's crazy. Hopefully the next Ami update I'm going to bring you will be me collecting my car from the dealer and trying hard not to die on the journey home, given how terribly dangerous it obviously is. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on that one. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.